Later in Mechelen, the assembly camp, I learned why my father did that. He knew that the Nazis often grabbed the beards of Jews and ripped them off their faces. This memory is seared into my mind and has become for me the touchstones of my experience. My father's face without his beard has become for me one of the most personal and significant memories of the Holocaust. The Nazis transport us to Mechelen, the gates open, and the truck enters the inner courtyard. I gave you these papers, that's what it looked like. When my sister Eva and Rachel see their old parents and me arrive, they turn white with horror. They run to the commandant from the camp, begging him to give work to their parents and sister, for they know that work may mean survival, at least temporarily. My father and I are given the job of folding cartons, and my mother working on a sewing machine. Because my father was already old, he's not able to fold enough of the boxes to satisfy the commander. I am young and fast and able to make more than I needed. When the Germans aren't looking, I put the extra ones on my father's pile. It saves his life. Every so often, the quota of Jews is gathered. The train to Auschwitz is filled. We do not yet fully understand at this time that most of the Jews packed into those horrible cattle trains will never be seen again. One night, 2 Nazis come into our dormitory, Boden and Frank, and enjoy themselves by telling their huge German shepherd to jump on my bed. I hide frightened under the covers. The huge dog jumps on me and barks and snarls at me through the covers. I know in one moment the Nazis could give an order, the dog to kill me. 1 week before we arrived in Mechelen, a SS commander named Schmidt, whom everybody in Mechelen feared like the devil, once sent his dog to attack a 19-year-old boy. The German shepherd chewed up the boy's leg, and it needed to be amputated. The boy was then sent on the train to Auschwitz. I peered through a vent in the wall under my bed, looked out across a stream to the street beyond. There I saw people walking freely, and I wondered if I ever will be able to walk free. April 43. My friend in camp is a young girl 2 years older than me, called Helene Silberschatz. For a short time, the Nazis permitted packages to be received from the outside. She gets packages from her parents full of food and goodies, which she shares with me. Helene already has a transport number, which means she is to be placed on the next train out to Auschwitz. I tell her I'm very concerned about her being taken away. And she says to me, "Don't worry, Naomi, I will be free before you." Today, April 20th, the train pulls out of Mechelen with Helene on it. I hear soon after that at the very first stop, my brave friend Helene jumps off, trying to escape. She was shot dead on the spot by the SS, who took a photograph of her dead body. When I found out, I was devastated and cried bitterly. Helene was finally free. 6 difficult months in Mechelen assembly camp pass. Miraculously, my family is not put on a death train, and we survive. Today we hear that Queen Elizabeth of Belgium intervened and that all Jews with Belgian citizenship could be let out of the camp, should be let out. Because my sisters have Belgian citizenship, we are somehow all freed. Instead of returning to Antwerp, we traveled to the biggest city of Brussels, hoping to have a better chance of hiding from the Nazis. Not having any money, my sisters go to work as maids. Soon after they are picked up again by the Gestapo, who also finds us and brings us to the headquarters and put us in a jail cell in the basement packed with other Jews. I remember needing badly to go to the bathroom. Can you imagine how I felt as a young girl to be escorted to the bathroom by a Nazi with a rifle, as if I was a dangerous criminal? While they were there, the Nazis wanted to show how humanitarian they were, and designated an old age home and several children's homes as a kind of a facade to show the world. I was separated from my parents. They were sent to the old age home. I was sent to a children's orphanage. I missed my family terribly and cried constantly. There I worked repairing worn clothing, and later I was promoted to be a nurse's helper. 10 days before the end of the war, the director of the children's home, Mr. Horowitz, was informed that tomorrow the Germans would come to eliminate the orphanage and send us to Auschwitz, 10 days before the end of the war. The director frantically spread us out to hide in homes, in non-Jewish homes in various surrounding villages. The day after the orphanage was emptied of children, the Nazis came. A shoemaker who was also hiding with us in the orphanage was there when the Germans arrived. He was so frightened that he started to run. They shot him dead. I was sent to that farm that I told you about in the beginning, where I slept under a cross. While at the farmer's home, we heard that the war was over. The director of the orphanage came to pick me up, and all the other children were brought back to the orphanage. Many children had no home to return to, their parents and siblings having been killed in concentration camps. I remember coming home. My parents, who miraculously survived, were in a very tiny apartment in Brussels. I came home and saw 2 old broken people. We hugged and kissed, and instead of being exuberantly happy that we were finally together, I went to the other room and cried because of the way they looked. I also cried because I had no idea what the future held for us. My parents were destitute, and I had lost my childhood. I had no idea even then that Jews were gassed in Auschwitz and other camps. Well, while the war was going on, the few who escaped from the hell tried to tell their stories to whoever would listen. But it was so unbelievable that people just thought they were crazy. Maybe they just didn't want to accept how horrible things were. After the war, the unacceptable truth came out. My immediate family all survived. But instead of feeling happy about it, I was riddled with guilt and embarrassed in front of other girls who had lost so much more than their childhood. I could not imagine then that as the years go by, I would have a full life. A wonderful husband, 4 great children, grandchildren, including my dear Jonah, who is sitting here with us, and many great grandchildren. And that I would live in Eretz Yisrael and stand in front of you to tell you my story. All of you will return this special year to the States and continue your education. You will be meeting people who have no idea what the Jewish people went through. Don't expect them to understand. This is my message to you. Demand that understanding and that memory just from yourselves. Each of our holidays is a day of remembrance. Make your life a life of remembrance. Each one of you is like a Hanukkah candle, burning with light that can pass that flame to so many others. Each one of you is a shaliach to bring the message of life, of memory, of the importance of living in a Jewish country to so many other young people. My light is, thank God, still burning, and I'm passing the flame to you. Let it be warm, your heart. Let it never be forgotten. Pass it to others. There's only one place for the Jewish people to be safe, to be strong. It is here in Israel, with an army of strong Jewish youth sacrificing their years to protect this country. I am in awe of them. May God give me the strength and life to see many of you come on Aliyah and be part of the Jewish people building our land and our future. During the Persian Gulf War 27 years ago, Jews in Israel were afraid that Iraq would send missiles with poison gas on Israel. I spoke daily with my children who lived in Israel, and I told my granddaughter Leah, who was 9 years old then, that when she goes to the sealed room, she should keep on saying a bracha, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. She replied, Bobby, I know so many other brachot. The miracle of bringing bread from the earth is a symbol of life. The seed is hidden in the earth, just as I was hidden in the basement of the church, and hidden in the farmer's house, and hidden in the attic, and hidden in different apartments, hiding from the Nazis. In different ways, each of you has some part of himself that is still hidden. But what is hidden has life. It is being nourished and waiting for the day to emerge in the sun. The story of grain of wheat, the grain of wheat, is our story. It is the story of the Jewish people, who have again risen from the ashes to rebuild themselves in Israel and all over the world. It is time for your hidden potentials to come out and be expressed. And remember, if you are ever stuck or emotionally moved and don't know what to say, there's one thing that worked for me and always will work. It's not about the bread. It's about the way we can bring ourselves out of the ground, out of the darkness. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
So if some of you have questions for Mrs. Waldman.
That's great.
Okay, so those of you who have questions, just raise your hand. And
Any questions? It's a miracle, a big miracle that we survived. What?
You have to digest it.
Oh, the digestive.
Yeah, digest all that good bread.
I must, yeah.
So, something I found really interesting.
I can't hear you.
you have to stand up and speak loud.
So something I found really interesting about your stories, you have a very introspective and reflective, memories that seem quite specific, such as when you talked about when you were walking with the man with a rifle. You found it was so interesting, as if he was protecting himself from you. I'm just curious if you kept it's a very interesting thought to recall upon. I was curious if you kept a diary or sort of wrote anything down as
I never kept a diary. I should have, but I didn't. I'm sure there's much more to what I told you now, but I have to add also that the reason we survived all of this, the sick children and my parents, which is very unusual, is that my brother David, who was in the army and who was fighting against the Germans, he ended up during the war in Cuba. And there, towards the end of the war, he knew that we were all in Belgium. He enlisted voluntarily into an arm. It's called the Piron Brigade, and this was a section of the English army. And they sent them to Canada to train with another few boys, and from Canada they shipped them to England. And in England, he came into the Normandy, if you ever heard. He came in and liberated Belgium. So he fulfilled his dream, really. And when he was in Cuba, he corresponded with my brother in Germany and my brother in England, and somehow we were in touch with each other, knowing that.
How old were you during that period of time?
I was 10 years old when the war broke out.
When it broke out.
I understand the need for everybody to remember important things in our history, in world history, but you said make your life a life of remembrance. Why did you put